Hi friends, welcome to this week's demo. This week I wanted to give you some ideas for using your black paper or black cardstock. So, yes, cardstock does come in black. It's really wonderful to play with. If you're doing card making, it's really great for making images stand out, because if you have something, I'm just going to show you something with text on it, and then you back it with black, it really makes it pop off the page. It just brings out all those dark shadows and those dark colors. So it's really a wonderful paper if you're doing card making for paper layering. However, I'm going to show you some ideas today to use your black paper in different ways. All right, so one of my favorite inks to use is the Versafine Flare Ink. Versafine Flare inks are really great for stamping images because when you stamp them in black, the image is nice and crisp and beautiful. I'm just going to show you how nice it is with my little swan stamp here. What's nice about it is it appears as if you've printed it off the computer. It is that crisp and beautiful and dark. It is just absolutely an amazing ink. So I wanted to show you how I like to use it. It's kind of a fun way. So this is a Dragonfly Stamp. Excuse all of the extra ink that's over here. This is what I'm using here. This is a stamp positioner, so then that way I can stamp in the same spot every time I put it on this little block here. So I'm going to just tap on. Most ink pads in the art industry are raised up like this. See how you can see that? Which makes you can just tap on the ink onto the stamp. Okay. So then I'm going to take my stamp positioner here and put my little piece of black paper in here, the little magnets, and flip this over. The little pegs line up perfectly, so then you can just stamp right down. That way if I accidentally misstamped or didn't stamp perfectly, I can just lift it up, lift this off, re-ink it, and then stamp it back down, and it lands in the exact same spot. It's a pretty wonderful tool. Okay, so I know you can barely even see it here, but I have stamped the black image onto, or the black ink image onto the black paper. Okay, all right, I'm going to tuck this to the side. All right, so even after this ink is dry, which doesn't take too long to allow it to dry, what's really cool about this is that you can actually use mica powder. Normally when I've taught this technique in the past, I usually recommend you use your Versamark ink pad, but for this technique, check this out. So this is mica powder. I transferred it to a little jar just because I wanted to label it gold dust. Yeah, that's just me. But basically what this is, whoops, wow, I've got kind of a lot of it everywhere, is that it's a metallic powder, right? And you can mix this into acrylic paint, you can mix it into a bunch of other stuff, but you can actually just take some of it, since I have some out here on my piece of paper already, and as you brush it across that stamped image, look what happens. The mica powder actually bonds to that black stamped image. I don't know why. Maybe it's because there's a slight tooth to the ink. I really just don't know, but the effect is absolutely incredible. Isn't that so much fun? And it's metallic. What's also really cool is that mica powders come in like every color of the rainbow, which is amazing, and you can use them to create really interesting techniques like that. Isn't that so much fun? Oh my gosh, I love it. Love, 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 love. Okay, so now, get this, you can even use, so let's see, we got a smaller piece here, and this is the clear ink I was telling you about, but it's in pen form. So you can actually go in and actually draw or kind of do some fun little designs, some swirls of some kind. You know, there's a bunch of different things you can do. Little hearts. And then you can go in with your different colors and create like a whole magical scene. This is kind of a fun activity to do with kids as well, because you can create something on a piece of black paper and then give them some of the mica powders, because a little goes a long way, and they can actually reveal the images. So it's kind of almost like a invisible ink kind of a situation, because who doesn't love playing with invisible ink? So that can be really, really fun. And look how you can see how the different colors look on this paper. Isn't that so, so cool? I'm just going to show you a variety of different colors here because I love the mica powder effect. You can use mica powder in a variety of different projects too, but this is one of my favorite ways to use it because the reveal is so good and it looks amazing on black paper. Once you've applied it on there, you can just brush off any excess, or you can take a paper towel and kind of wipe it away. But it's a really fun way to use your black paper in a new way if you haven't played with mica powders yet. So that is my first fun idea to share with you. So you can take a paper towel here. I'm just going to brush off any excess. Or if you want to leave the whole thing metallic, you can. But isn't that really fun? I love the effect, and I love what that creates. It's just really, really cool. Okay, so now, all right. So I'm going to talk to you about using your mica watercolors. Mica watercolors are watercolors that have mica in them. And mica, remember, was this stuff. This is mica. Mica occurs naturally in the environment, and so what they have created is watercolors that have mica in them, which means this is a water brush that has water already in it. So when I pick my water brush up, the brush is already wet, so it means I can pick up color right away, and then I can immediately start watercoloring with it. Isn't this so cool? I love all the different colors. I love how they show up on black paper, but what's even cooler is that you're using hardly any, which means that your watercolors last for a very long time because you don't need very much to create that stunning effect. Isn't that so much fun? Oh my gosh, I love playing with mica watercolors. It's just really, really cool. So you can do your mica watercolors, and then you can actually do embossing on top of it. So let's say like you wanted to do like some striping, and we could do some other colors of the stripes here. We'll go into yellow, and we'll go into the green. So you can create like a whole background, and it kind of almost looks like a little bit like Aurora Borealis, but you just kind of create some really interesting effects here. So I probably have told you guys about heat embossing before, but I'm gonna just show you what the effect looks like after you've done a kind of a cool background. Then you can stamp and then do embossing with black embossing powder. And you get this effect. Isn't this so cool? So we're stamping the image and then doing a heat set with the embossing powder to create that kind of cool effect on top of that. So it's kind of a great way to use your mica watercolors in a fun and different way. Isn't that fun? All right. So just other ways to use your mica watercolors, but on black paper. And on black paper it does look the best, or on dark blue, like on navy paper. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to talk to you about kind of creating a cute little scene here. So remember this little swan that I cut out earlier? All right, well, since I'm already using my mica watercolors anyway, might as well go back in and add a little bit of color to our little swan here. Whoops. I would like a blue, please. All right. I'm just going to add just a little bit of color to our swan here, even though I know swans are technically white, but we'll just add a tiny little bit of blue here. All right, I'm just going to blend this in a little bit. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually make kind of a scene that has some kind of dark shadow kind of silhouettes, okay? So we're just going to kind of lay this down here. It's kind of a shimmery blue-white kind of color that we have. And I'm going to take the same stamp and I'm going to stamp it on some black paper. And I recommend stamping in a shade of, well, I'm going to use the Versafine Flare black that I was using earlier. And I'm going to stamp that. You just want to make sure that you can actually see the ink. I know you guys can't really see this very well, but I can see the stamped image. Because what we're going to do is we're actually going to fussy cut that image so that it actually is going to create the shadow, okay? So, and you'll see what I mean here in just a moment. So I'm going to cut around. I know you guys can't see what I'm doing here, but what I'm doing is I'm actually cutting right up to the edge of the black line of the stamp so that as I'm cutting it out, you can actually see that the full shape of the swan here. Okay, and then we're going to get the swan neck and his little head. If it's not completely perfect, it's okay. because it's gonna, again, it's going to be the shadow of it, but we're going to kind of just go with this effect here. All right. So now we have our black shadow. And as you lay it underneath it, you can see, whoops, you kind of get that shadow effect, right? Which I think is kind of cool. All right, so now I'm going to fussy cut this little guy as well, because we're going to lay him on a little scene. Okay. And we're going to cut the little wing. I guess I probably should have colored in the beak, but I didn't. I can always go back and do that later. All right. Get this little beak in here. All right, so there we have those two pieces. All right, so I'm going to create this kind of, I'm going to use this as like my water scene. So what I'm going to do, get out my craft mat here. Lay this down. All right, so my idea here is I'm going to have this little swan sitting on the water, and this is going to be its little silhouette. It's going to be its shadow that's created here. So because I want to create kind of a shadow kind of effect anyway, I'm going to take my Distress Oxide Black Soot ink pad here with my blending brush, and I'm just going to add a little bit of kind of some darker kind of shadows just along the sides. And this is just going to make it look kind of like a little, kind of a darker scene, just slightly. I'm just going to kind of blend this out a little bit. I love blending with the oxide inks because they stay wet longer, so you actually have time to blend your inks together, which I love. Okay. All right. So then I wanted to create kind of a sky scene, and I'm actually going to create kind of a sunset appearance. That's what I'm going for here. So might as well get out another color. And I'm going to make sure this is the same width as my paper here. Okay, and I'm just pulling out some red. This is Festive Berries. This is the ink itself versus the oxide. Because I just want to create kind of like a sunset kind of a sky here. And the blending brushes are perfect for that because you can kind of create that beautiful gradation, that kind of tone on tone that's so beautiful, that we all love so much. And since I'm already doing this anyway, I might as well bring in my next color. Just because I'm kind of working towards kind of like a darker sky, right? Because, you know, when the sunset happens, we're headed towards kind of that darker color. So I'm using Seedless Preserves now for the sides here. Oops. Okay, now I have I took my circle punch and cut out an even brighter shade of yellow. I'm not even sure you guys can see that up there, but this is where the sun is going to be kind of setting behind our little scene here. Okay, so I want this to kind of sit on top of my little card. This is going to be the sky, and this is going to be the water part. So because I want the water to be kind of wavy looking, I'm actually going to do that by creating the waviness here. So as we lay this down, then we get our sun. I'm just going to adhere this in place. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually adhere the sun onto the bottom of this. It's going to go off the edge just slightly because I want this to look like it's setting. I'm going to flip this over so I can trim that off so it looks like it's setting behind the water. And then there we have that. Okay. All right. So now we have our swan here sitting on the water. All right. But now I wanted to create like some fun, like interesting kind of background kind of a thing, right? Because we have this one like deep shadow, but like no other shadows, right? So to do that, another little piece of black paper here. I'm actually going to draw some little trees. They're not going to be perfect by any means. And again, you're going to want to use something you can actually see what you're doing here. So I'm going to use a pencil just to kind of create like some trees. And these are not perfect trees by any means, but we're just going to kind of create some fun little tree shapes, right? Oh, and we'll do like this kind of branchy looking thing and something along these lines. Okay, I'm going to fold my paper in half because I need 2 of everything, right? Because you have the sky and then you also need to have your shadow. So I'm just going to trim these out here. Again, they don't have to be perfect. If you have stamped little images that you want to use instead, you can do that. In fact, maybe that's what I probably should have done, but that's okay. We're just going to go with these little hand-drawn things here. We have our tree, and if you leave it on the fold line, then you kind of create exactly what you need here. You have your thing that's kind of going on the top, and then the exact opposite is going to be in the water, right? Creating that shadow. And you're gonna have to bear with me here, guys, because my trees are gonna just look a little cartoony here. It's fine. It's fine. Okay. All right, and then we have this little guy here. And I got a couple more of these. Again, they're not going to be perfect, but that's okay. It's all about concepts, right? I always like to work from the side that I feel most comfortable with. So sometimes I find them like I'm really detailed on the right side, but then when it comes to the left side, I'm not very detailed at all. So a great way to get around that is by just flipping your paper over, so then that way you're always cutting on the side that you feel most comfortable. All right, okay. So now we have our little trees here. I think actually this one probably needs to be just kind of a shorter tree, perhaps. Oops, I forgot to fold that in half. All right, again, it's not like the best tree ever, but that's all right. It's all about the concepts. Okay, so once you have all of those things in place here, I'm just gonna move this over. Take that away. Okay, so now you have your kind of interesting scene here. All right, so now we can take and we can glue these down. So sometimes you may find that you have an image, you want this shadow here, sometimes you want it to be like more like faded. You can take like a black pen and kind of put some black pen down and then lay this on, which I might actually end up doing just to show that there's water here. So I'm just going to show you what that might look like. Just use my glaze pen here. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to adhere my little sunset guy along the top. We'll lay that down here. Okay. I have my water scene down here. And then I'm just going to go in with this black pen. I'm going to kind of line this out just a little bit, just to kind of give this idea of just some like water. Or maybe like it's like a pond perhaps, so maybe there's some of these kinds of things happening. These little kind of pool marks here. And in the very front we can even create some more fun dimension here. Again, it's always easier if you kind of draw it down and then you can kind of cut it out, because when it's although you can see the pencil here, we can't always see the pencil when we lay it down, because you can just cut around, you slip it over, right? So I'm kind of creating like some fun, like maybe cattails of some kind. And here I'm going to have them just in the foreground, just in the front. So it's not really necessary for me to cut out a double in this case. I wanted to create the double image before, because that was how when I was doing like the sky and then have it reflecting in the little pond there. All right. So I'm cutting out my little cattails. They're not perfect, but that's okay. Of course, you can always use die cuts if you happen to have die cuts, and just cutting them out of black is quick and easy. All right, and you can flip those over. Again, it's not perfect, but you kind of get the idea. You get the concept. Okay. See? And I got one more here. I love this idea of creating like a little scene out of black paper, because again, it's just the shadows that we're kind of trying to create here. Like we're just casting the little silhouettes. I really like to do paper crafts and paper crafting in this way, because then it really kind of is up to your imagination and like what you can create. Okay, so now that we have everything cut out, now we can start piecing everything together. Okay, so we're going to have our little swan. The swan needs to be sitting on the water, so I'm just going to cut that right there. I'm just going to put this right here. I actually think I want this kind of down a little bit. It's like it's resting on the water here. And then we need to trim the same spot on this guy. So as it's sitting in here, you can actually see the swan there. Actually want his head to be on our little card here. Okay. All right. And then we have our tree silhouettes. We're folding this open, and we're going to put the fold part so that that's going to be right along the edge of the water there. And what's going to end up happening is it'll probably go off the top a little bit, and you can always trim those off. And we're going to do the same thing with this guy. Even though this tree is not perfect, it's okay. We'll lay this down right here. All right. And then just to finish off this card here, oh, and my little tree on this side. You know, he's going to be just a little tall for our project here, but that's okay. Again, I can always trim it off. Cut off the edge if needed. So now you have your scene here, and then you also have your silhouettes that are cast along the water. And then we're going to go back in now, and we'll glue down our little reeds and things that are kind of hanging over the edge. And I think actually what I want to do for this guy, let's see here. I think I want this kind of coming in from the bottom here like so. And let's see what this guy might look like over here. I think I kind of want to do maybe something kind of similar on this side here. Here we go. All right, so now we'll trim everything off. And here along the top. All right, and there we have it. So just a kind of a fun and interesting way to kind of create a scene using silhouettes and kind of creating this kind of idea of kind of a silhouette happening underneath this. And so you have the sun that's kind of setting, casting the light right here on our little swan guy, and then you have your silhouettes that are already kind of coming across here because they're closer to the sun there. All right, so that is another idea you can use black paper for. All right, so now some last couple things. I wanted to just remind you that on your black paper, one of my favorite things to use is the amazing white pens. They are incredible. What I love about the white pens is that they're really great for doing doodling as well. So if you like to do doodles, which is just for kind of mindless activity, but just kind of a great way to just kind of calm the mind, and just by, you know, kind of a great way to make something kind of fun and beautiful, you can just take the white pen and just kind of draw to your heart's desire. The pen flows beautifully on the black paper, but what's amazing about it is that it's really nice and vibrant. So even from a distance, where you guys are up there on the camera, you can still see all of the bright white and really see that gorgeous effect that it has. So that's just another fun way to use your black paper, especially if you're just looking for like a little activity to maybe do, like maybe while you're watching TV or while you're waiting somewhere. If you keep like a little white pen in your bag and maybe like a little notebook of black paper, you can just go in and just doodle just to kill time, or just, you know, if you're like worried or your mind is kind of going a million miles an hour, it's nice to just kind of relax and just kind of focus on nothing for a little while. And doodling is great for that. I definitely love to doodle. Drawing and doodling is really my default. It's what I do and what I turn to when I don't have anything else to do. Which is kind of a joke because I always have stuff to do. But I really, really love to draw. It's very calming, and it's just a really great way to kind of explore all your fun pens too. Especially if you have pens laying around that you're like, I love this pen. Do you ever pick up a pen and you're really inspired by it? Like, you love the way it flows, you love the color. Those are the pens that I like to use for doodling, because you already are enjoying the way that it writes and draws, and so by then taking it and kind of relaxing the mind a little bit, you're able to not only enjoy the pen, how it flows on the paper, but you're also able to create something magical and fun that kind of just pops into your head. Okay, fun way. All right, and then the last thing I wanted to share with you is the amazing world of stickles. Stickles are basically glitter in a clear medium. I hear for years people always called this glitter glue, which I think is a totally inappropriate name to call this product, because if you call something glue, then people think you use it to adhere things. But it's just glitter in a fine point tip, but it's in a clear medium. So there are tons of different kinds. This first one, these ones are all the white ones, all the clear or iridescent ones. But what's neat about them is that they're all a little different. So I'm going to show you the differences and how they appear on black paper, because they're actually quite cool. And I'm going to do a line of them so you can see. So this first one is Unicorn. It is the most glittery one. It's also my most favorite because it is incredible. Look how gorgeous that is. Oh, I just absolutely love it. This one here, this is probably one of my all-time favorites because it's so unique. I don't know if you guys can kind of see, it has almost a blue tint to it. This one's called Twinkle, and you're going to see why here in just a minute. Look how magical that is. Oh my gosh. It has like a blue metallic to it, even though technically it is one of the clear, more iridescent white ones, but it is just, I mean, it's amazing. Absolutely amazing. This one was my favorite for many, many years before the Twinkle and the Unicorn came out. This one is called Crystal. And this one has almost like a green iridescence to it. It is absolutely stunning. Absolutely a gorgeous, gorgeous color. Now, what's cool about these is that all of these colors show up totally different on white paper, but the black paper, in my opinion, makes these colors stand out. They look beautiful. All right, this one is called Diamond. Diamond has a lot more yellow in it than I think any of the other ones do, but it is pretty wonderful. It's pretty magical looking. I'm going to do a kind of a larger blot here so you can really see the color. Isn't that gorgeous? Oh, so fun. This one's really similar to the Unicorn, but I will tell you that the Unicorn one, although I didn't use very much of it, is extremely glittery. But they're all really beautiful and really glittery in lots of fun ways. And then Stardust is the one that most of my customers use because it's just a little bit iridescent. It's not too overwhelming. It is absolutely beautiful, and in my opinion is probably the most normal iridescent one there is, if we can call one of these normal. But it is just really, really striking, and so a lot of people really like this one because it goes with any project. All right. So that one was called Stardust, and it looks kind of like a star. So those are going to be your different versions of the colored stickles that all kind of look like they're the same one, because look at the packaging. I mean, they all look really similar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perfect. I got them all down. So now you know that's what those are about, and they are so cool. So if you're doing like some sort of scene, like maybe you watercolor something with the Mica watercolors, you can go back in with each of these and add like some stars or add some iridescence, or you can just draw with them like I've done here. I used quite a bit of these. Normally I don't use nearly this much because you really don't need very much to make that really, really cool effect. All right. All right. Okay, friends, so that is today's demo. I'm going to stop there because it's already a lot of ideas. But if you need even more ideas, stop by the shop. I would love to inspire you. Thanks, guys, for joining me for demo today. It was good to see you, even though I can't see you. But just know that thanks for joining me, and it's good to know that you're on the other side. See you guys later. Have a fun day.